The great writer Toni Morrison once said, in response to a question about surviving the brutality of this world, that sometimes you don't survive whole, you just survive in part, but that the grandeur of life is that attempt. It is not about any solution, she said, but about being as fearless as one can and behaving as beautifully as one can under completely impossible circumstances. I can't tell you how many times I thought about that these past 5 years as our team traveled throughout the many islands of Melanesia, meeting some of the most climate vulnerable communities in the world and gathering firsthand accounts of climate harm. We heard from the people of Vunidogoloa, Fiji, who left behind the graves of their ancestors when rising seas and saltwater intrusion made life along the coast impossible. They say moving was like dying. We heard from the people of Yakel, a custom village on Tanna, Vanuatu, for whom yam is not only the most important of the root crops, but also an indispensable part of all of their sacred ceremonies. They say they have not had a single successful yam harvest in 4 years. We heard from the people of Veraibari, a village in Papua New Guinea's Kakori River Delta, who are now in the midst of their 5th and final climate-induced relocation. Final, they say, because there is simply no more inland left to go. What these Indigenous communities offered us was more than testimony. They offered us a way of seeing. They described not only their obvious losses of crops and coastlines of food and fresh water, but also the rapid unraveling of rights essential to human dignity, the rights to life, health, culture, self-determination. Listening to them required translating their stories into legal language, yes, but more importantly, it required recognizing that even as they spoke about the environment, they never once used the flat language of environmental stewardship. Theirs was a language of respect, reciprocity, relations, a language of radical love and radical anti-commodification. In short, a living language. And even in the thick of their grief, they welcomed us, shared their sacred foods with us, opened their private worlds to us. They did all of this with a generosity of spirit that is difficult to describe. The word that comes closest is sublime. Moreover, the contribution their testimonies made to the outcome of the now historic ICJ Climate Change Advisory Opinion cannot be overstated. Let us talk about one aspect of that outcome now. For the first time in history, the ICJ has confirmed that the general law of state responsibility applies fully and unequivocally to the conduct responsible for climate change. The court made clear that when states breach their primary obligations to reduce emissions, to prevent transboundary harm, to act in accordance with the best available science, the full panoply of secondary rules is triggered. States that fail to exercise the required diligence now incur international responsibility, including the duty to stop their wrongful conduct, to offer assurances of non-repetition, and crucially, to make full reparation for the injury their actions have caused. By rooting climate obligations in this long-standing legal framework, the court has opened a real and workable pathway toward reparations. The court, in short, transformed what for decades was a plea from the climate vulnerable into a matter of legal consequence, a recognition not only of the law they are owed, but of the dignity they deserve. The world owes these frontline communities a great debt. I would like to end my remarks tonight by thanking the person to whom I owe my greatest debt, my partner, Ronald Regis Gogo, who is here with me tonight. Without his work, mine would be impossible. For he has walked beside me, yes, but he has also walked ahead of me, too, to clear a path, to clear my own road of debris. This type of labor, so often thankless and invisible, is absolutely a labor of love. Thank you, love, and thank you all.